Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. When we think of modern shipping, we usually picture these massive, imposing steel vessels plowing through the world's physical oceans. But today, we're going to explore a completely different, totally hidden ocean. As you'll see, modern ships are actually complex, floating digital networks, and the high-stakes vulnerabilities they face are entirely invisible. We're diving deep into the world of cybersecurity on board ships, where a single malicious file can literally stop thousands of tons of cargo dead in the water. To really grasp the reality of this threat, consider this wild story of a ship under pilotage in a super busy channel. Out of nowhere, its electronic chart displays and voyage performance computers completely crash. The bridge team is suddenly blind digitally and forced to navigate just by visual means and a single backup radar. When the systems finally rebooted, the root cause wasn't some sophisticated state-sponsored hacker in a dark room. It was literally just outdated and unsupported operating systems. The ship's master had actually been calling these frequent computer failures gremlins, and his requests for servicing had just been ignored. A simple maintenance oversight nearly caused a massive maritime disaster.
So to unpack exactly how the maritime industry is securing its vessels against these digital gremlins and deliberate attacks, we're going to follow a clear roadmap today. 1. The connected ship vulnerability. 2. Information versus operational technology. 3. Anatomy of maritime threats. 4. Assessing the digital risk. And 5. Defense and incident response.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the connected ship vulnerability.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our first major area of focus explores how multi-million-dollar vessels have essentially transformed into highly connected, floating data centers. The digital waters these smart ships navigate are just as vast, deep, and treacherous as the physical ocean. We're looking at an environment where everyday operations, from engine performance monitoring all the way to cargo tracking, rely on an unbroken stream of binary data. A ship's digital footprint is continuous now, and any disruption in these digital waters immediately ripples into the physical world.
The maritime industry possesses some incredibly quirky structural characteristics that make it uniquely vulnerable to cyber incidents. For starters, there's this massive web of stakeholders, owners, charterers, agents, terminals, which can lead to a really dangerous fragmentation of accountability. Who exactly is responsible for the ship's network? Add to that a heavy reliance on legacy IT and totally obsolete operating systems. And here is where it gets crazy. Some critical operational systems literally cannot be patched with antivirus software, because doing so actually voids their specific maritime type approvals. Plus, safety-critical systems are now frequently connected to the shore, often with manufacturers and vendors holding completely unmonitored remote access.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when those exact vulnerabilities are exposed. Imagine a brand new dry bulk ship, completely designed for state-of-the-art paperless navigation, just delayed from sailing for days. The master thought it was just a technical glitch. But when a technician finally troubleshooted the system, they found an unrecognized virus had infected both networks of the electronic chart display and information system. The cost and delays in repairs for this unseen virus skyrocketed into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Absolutely brutal. Moving on to Section 2, Information versus Operational Technology. To effectively secure a ship, we absolutely have to understand this critical distinction. A modern vessel operates with two very different technological brains. On one side, we have information technology, or IT. This manages data, handles crew welfare systems, emails, standard business functions. It doesn't steer the ship. But on the other side is operational technology, or OT. This is the hardware and software that directly monitors and controls physical devices. We're talking the propulsion, the steering, the power management. When IT is breached, sure, you might lose commercial data. But when OT is compromised, the physical vessel, the environment, and the crew are put in immediate, life-threatening danger. Let's ground this difference in reality really quick. A ship with an integrated navigation bridge system suffered a catastrophic failure of nearly all its navigation systems while at sea and high traffic and reduced visibility. The cause? A botched software update. A manufacturer's tech rep had tried to perform a routine update while they were in port, but the ship's outdated operating systems just couldn't handle the modern software. They crashed entirely. The ship was forced to navigate blindly for 2 whole days before limping into port, proving without a doubt that a failure in OT systems has massive, immediate physical consequences. Up next, Section 3, Anatomy of Maritime Threats. So, who is actually launching these attacks, and how on earth are they getting in? Well, it's vital to recognize that threats aren't always a direct frontal assault on the ship itself. One ship owner reported that their company's entire business network was locked down by ransomware. The malicious files didn't come from some mastermind hacker. They were introduced via standard phishing emails opened by two completely unsuspecting, legitimate shore-based ship agents in completely different ports. The trusted supply chain itself literally became the Trojan horse.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that you don't just have to worry about criminals looking for a quick payday or state-sponsored groups aiming to disrupt global infrastructure. Actually, the highest likelihood threat often comes from accidental actors. We're talking about a crew member with no malicious intent whatsoever who simply plugs in an infected USB drive just to charge their phone, unintentionally introducing a virus through pure bad luck or just a lack of training.
When a targeted attack does happen, it generally follows these exact sequential steps. First is reconnaissance, monitoring a shipping company's social media or analyzing their data flows. Next up is delivery, getting the malicious file onto the system via a phishing email or maybe a fake website. Then comes the breach, where the attacker actually gains a foothold. But guys, the most dangerous step by far is this final one, the pivot. Attackers will breach the weakest link, say a poorly secured crew entertainment network, and use that compromised system to pivot, attacking the highly secured safety-critical operational networks from the inside.
Let's pivot ourselves to Section 4, Assessing the Digital Risk.
Understanding the anatomy of an attack is really only half the battle. We also need to look at the mathematical and logical framework the maritime industry uses to grade these threats. Risk doesn't just materialize out of thin air, it's carefully calculated. A threat is born only when an actor has the intent, the capability, and the opportunity to cause harm. So, if a state-sponsored hacker has massive capability and intent, but a ship's critical systems are completely disconnected from the internet, the opportunity is zero. Consequently, the immediate digital threat to that specific isolated system drops dramatically.
So the crucial point is how this all comes together mathematically. The maritime guidelines define risk as a simple equation. You take the likelihood, which is your threat, multiplied by your system's vulnerability, and multiply that whole thing by the impact. If you have a high-threat environment, but you've patched your vulnerabilities, the likelihood goes down. Keep the likelihood low, and your overall risk remains totally manageable.
To quantify that impact part of the equation, the industry relies on a pretty strict 1 to 5 scale. A ship's master or safety officer evaluates exactly what would happen if a specific system goes down. A level 1 impact might just be a minor glitch in an admin computer, no injuries, zero physical damage. But if a threat compromises the engine control systems or electronic navigation while navigating narrow straits, yeah, that jumps straight to a level 5, meaning potential fatalities or a widespread environmental catastrophe.
Finally, Section 5, Defense and Incident Response.
Knowing the risk is essential, but obviously acting on it is what actually saves lives. Let's move to identify and see how this builds into a comprehensive strategy. The cyber risk management approach is definitely not a one-time checklist you just tick off. It's a continuous circular life cycle. You're constantly identifying threats and vulnerabilities, assessing the risk exposure, developing new protection and detection measures, establishing response plans, and finally responding and recovering when things go wrong. And once you recover, you feed what you learned right back into the identify phase to tighten your defenses even more.
And this life cycle absolutely cannot just be outsourced to the IT department. Cybersecurity at sea is an operationally critical, company-wide effort. Responsibilities must be mapped out super clearly. While a ship IT manager might be directly responsible for the infrastructure, the managing director, the fleet manager, the crewing manager, and the master all have massive supporting roles. If the culture doesn't start at the very top of senior management, the entire ship's defenses will just crumble from within.
Ultimately, all these defensive measures aim to protect 3 core pillars, known in the industry as the CIA model. First, confidentiality, keeping sensitive crew data and cargo manifests out of unauthorized hands. Second, integrity, ensuring that when a navigation chart says the water is deep enough, that data hasn't been maliciously altered to cause a grounding. And finally, availability, guaranteeing that when the master pushes the throttle or turns the wheel, the systems are actually online and responsive. The transition from analog workhorses to highly advanced, digitally connected, smart ships has forever changed the maritime industry. The efficiency gains are absolutely massive, but as we've seen today, the invisible vulnerabilities are equally vast. It forces us to ask a pretty difficult question. As our massive vessels become more and more reliant on continuous data streams, is the global maritime supply chain actually getting more robust and secure, or is it just sitting quietly, waiting for the perfect storm to be breached? Thanks so much for exploring this fascinating topic with me. Keep learning, stay secure, and I'll catch you in the next one.